Now, as for the next story, the U.S. president has expressed pessimism about a possible diplomatic thaw with Pyongyang ahead of his planned summit with North Korean leader.
If I think that it's a meeting that is not going to be fruitful, we're not going to go. If the meeting, when I'm there, is not fruitful, I will respectfully leave the meeting.
Trump was addressing a news conference with visiting Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. He raised the possibility that the yet-to-be-scheduled summit with Kim Jong-un might be called off because of lack of agreement over an agenda or because it might not be successful. The U.S. president, however, outlined some of the parameters of the talks. Well, he said that he will seek the release of 3 American hostages in an agreement in which North Korea gives up its nuclear weapons. Washington currently does not have diplomatic relations with the North, although the two sides were in high-level contacts in the past. Trump has also confirmed that CIA Director Mike Pompeo has recently met with the North Korean leader. Well, joining me now from Niagara Falls, Ontario is Jason Unruhe, political commentator, analyst. Good to have you with us, Jason. I mean, I don't get this. Pompeo went back to the White House and said it is worth planning to meet with the North Korean leader, and now Trump is saying he's pessimistic.
Well, I mean, this is the usual doublespeak that we see out of Trump. I think what he means by saying that if they're not fruitful, he means he's not going to get what he wants. The nuclear weapons alone are the largest issue in the entire discrepancy between the United States and the DPRK. Basically, the DPRK knows that they're under threat from U.S. imperialism, and thus, as a result, they have built a countermeasure against, or at least a significant deterrent against invasion, and this is what the United States wants to get rid of. The DPRK has said that it is willing to get rid of the nuclear weapons so long as the threat against them no longer exists. But I think it's pretty safe to say that so long as the United States continues to act in the manner of an imperialist state, that deterrence is always going to be needed. The DPRK has been playing its cards a little bit differently now than they have been in the past. The great diplomatic overtures that took place during the Olympics spread a great deal of goodwill. And then now seemingly, as it's come out from many reports, that there may be an end to the 68-year war between the North and the South. I think this is a major public relations shift. One of the things that the United States has always done as a justification for its occupation of the South has been the fact that the war between the North and the South is not yet over. If that does come to an end, what's left for a justification for the forces being there? I think it's an important question to ask in that situation. I think the DPRK is playing an entirely different game now, a much more diplomatic game. But I think in terms of what it is that Trump is actually talking about, I think it's the usual, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. Trump tends to change his mind day to day. He seems very inconsistent in his positions, but I would say, but it's specifically referring to this statement that he'll walk away if they're not fruitful. I think we can safely say that given his past actions and his personality, that it means he's going to walk away from the table if he doesn't get exactly what he wants.
And Jason, what good question. What can we expect to come out of these talks if they are being planned, if the two leaders meet? Can we be optimistic problems will really get resolved?
Well, it depends on how much of a result each sides are particularly looking for. I think there can be a positive outcome where both sides can achieve something. I believe that the U.S. can achieve the release of people who have been detained in the DPRK. I think that is a definite possibility in exchange for perhaps getting rid of some of the sanctions on the country. But I think that the overall arching issue, the main issue between the U.S. and the DPRK, is the issue of the DPRK's safety. The U.S. wants the DPRK to relinquish its nuclear weapons, and the other side wants the U.S. to no longer be a threat to them. That issue is one that is still yet to be decided, and I don't think will be decided during these rounds of talks. But in the past, we have been surprised by how positive some of these interactions can be. So I do think that there is some reason to be optimistic that at least some good can come out of these talks.
All right. Thank you for your insight. I appreciate it. That was Jason Unruhe, political commentary analyst, joining me from Ontario.